Critical knowledge. These are some laws, and if you want to, you could screenshot this really quick or write it down really quick, but it's also in your handout. To really know the fabrics of the process flow and lenders and the timelines and the expectations, you'll need to have a brief knowledge of the Truth in Lending Act. The good faith estimate is no longer around. We'll talk about that later on the CD. It's replaced by the loan estimate. But October 3rd, 2015, hint, hint, wink, wink, test question that you will get or asked sometimes. I know some hiring parties have their own little exam, and they'll want to know at least what year or month and year that our industry changed where we have new disclosures. The Real Estate Settlement Protection or Procedures Act, rather, is very important. And that these are all big, just numerous laws. You don't have to know all of them, but you need to at least have a working knowledge, at least the background. And you can even go on to Wikipedia and kind of get little snippets there. But the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act governs residential loans, and there's a lot of protection there for the consumer. The closing disclosure, also known as a CD, that is a term you will use like every day. Settlement statement HUD-1, those are still used. We'll talk about that later. And then, as Brenda mentioned, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They are now the watchdog group. They have been known to walk into a title company anonymously while nobody's looking and grabbing a file. When they leave, they immediately come back in or have their partner, whoever it is, go in and talk to manager about violations. They walk into lenders' offices. They can walk into a real estate office. Any person that deals with a transaction that falls under their jurisdiction. So, again, there's a lot of headache that happened with that. But now that it's here and we're 5 years later or the 6th year, they do a lot of good for consumers. So, but again, we'll talk more about that later. All right, be professional. Always act with grace under pressure and know what the heck you're doing. I know that sounds like an easy just thing we're throwing out there, but you really need to know what you're doing because it will show if you're just trying to guesstimate and kind of putting glue in water. Worried about going direct? Are you ready to target title companies? Well, on social media, people just seem that's just where you go. You can't be your first year in college and trying to market that you're a physician's assistant because the medical professionals will look at you like, okay, you need to be able to operate with no assistance, meaning you've done enough under your belt. You know the common questions that get asked. You know where to direct that traffic so the licensed professional can answer it. And basically, you just go in there, you do a signing, whether you're in-house at a title company or if you swing by, they've got documents, you've got that one-on-one relationship with the escrow officer, and you bring the documents back on there flawlessly. You're not calling them every 5 minutes. You're not going on social media asking for help. You're not having to call the NNA hotline. You're not having to call Brenda and Jake. So, and again, there are going to be issues on some of the files that you are involved in. We're not saying it's going to be a perfect world, but when you're still green, you kind of have to get your ranks, mainly because you need the experience, and then you'll build confidence in yourself. So, but the larger the fee, the more you should know. I know we've got a national audience here, but if you have the expectation of $200, $300, $400, usually you're gonna earn that. So don't think it's just something you can snap your fingers and it's done. So that's kind of what the experience baseline would be to really start marketing yourself direct. Tight-knit title company community in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and in Pennsylvania and Northern California. Is if you've been in this business a while, you'll know that most of your national signing services and title companies are in those markets. So I know most of my competition is a signing service. All of them in Dallas-Fort Worth, I know them. They may not know me, but I usually know enough about them. Being in title for so long, I know who they use. I know how to change my marketing strategy. But you'll quickly realize I know people on the East and West Coast. My point is the title companies are really close knit. Employees leave, they go to the competition, they may bring someone over, or they may be best friends, or whatever it may be. It's a small world. It may not feel like it, but it is. So you cannot hide from your mistakes. When you go through a hiring party, and that's why a lot of these title companies use that, is because all the kinks or the training hurdles have been ironed out in the most circumstance or most of the times. But if there's a signing agent that is not ethical, has caused damage or relationships or just bad attitude, whatever it may be, it allows them to have a strike on your profile for other hiring parties to see. So that's why it's very important. You make a mistake, we all do, we'll continue to, but learn from it. We'll tell you a little bit later how to kind of make it right to where sometimes you're going to be judged more on your willingness to correct the situation than you were, oops, I made this mistake. And sometimes it's overlooked, or often rather, it is overlooked. And I've actually gotten direct business from mistakes that I make because I don't understand the document necessarily all the way. And so I made a mistake, not necessarily notarial, but on the document itself. So I called and said, okay, can you kind of show me how this form is so I'll better understand this in the future? In the meantime, I already contacted the signer. We've got this. This is our game plan. And I will be back in your office at this time. Jake, this happens all the time. The form is very confusing. Just take care of it. We know you're good for it. And then guess what? I got 2 more orders. And then a month in, I got more. So don't beat yourself up if there's a mistake. Future business obviously can be affected. So if we like to use the word ghost out. If we hire you, my company, and you make a mistake and we can't reach you, and we're trying to reach you, then your profile history will mirror the struggle we have. So, all right. Again, mistakes can be added to your profile on certain platforms, but again, you can turn them around and make that experience a unique experience too, and a learning curve for you, and sometimes even your hiring party. Be patient. Again, we're going to tell you 20 more times, maybe 100 more times. You have to know your state's expectations, best practices, and ultimately the laws in your state. They're going to be a pillar to your profession in business, and you're going to have to educate sometimes these hiring parties that are not in your state. Why, especially those of you in California, why you have to have that certain certificate language. And Louisiana, why you're able to kind of butcher the thing and create your own, and the certain, well, let's just say, if those who are not familiar, in Louisiana, they are almost equivalent to an attorney as far as their notarial rights and to be able to draft some documents. So every state's going to be unique. That's why it's important for you to know them, because sometimes you are going to have to tell your hiring party, this was done for this purpose pursuant to my state's law, code, reference, or whatever. If you're not going to learn them first, you're going to have problems. And it's almost a one-way ticket for you to fail. And everything you spend on equipment and credentials and courses, it's just money you wasted. So definitely want to learn to crawl before you walk. So when should you really market the title companies? Already told you got to kind of really have your boots shined, be presentable, be marketable, have your credentials in order, be well rehearsed. You don't have to ask many questions and operate with little assistance. So we already got that, right? So we recommend after 100 flawless packages that you should probably have enough experience, but we'll let you guys gauge that, okay? This is just our comfort zone of saying, hey, once you do 100 assignments, whether they're small transactions, big ones, refis, and all that, then you should really be able to go market direct. But here's our recipe. You ready? I'm not gonna hit the drum roll because the speakers will probably pop yours on my mic. But our drum roll, wait for it. Wait for it. Here comes the secret sauce. Bam. Hiring party. If you book me for this appointment, if I make one small error, not only am I going to take care of it and fix it, you're not going to pay me. This would be a learning tool for me, but also to show my commitment to working with you and, whatever you want to say. My work is 100% guaranteed. Most of the time, And this actually happened yesterday. I forgot to tell Brenda about it. One of our notaries did a really bad job, did not show up on time. What did I tell us to the loan officer and everyone else in the email chain? Hey, this is not our process flow. This should not happen. You guys are trusting us and the signing agent for this not to happen. You're not going to pay for the service. We'll take care of it. And Mr. Borrower, I'm overnighting you at a $50 gift certificate to Amazon.
Wow.
And they're like, no, you don't have to do that. We appreciate your willingness. I said, no, these are mistakes. These should not happen. We have a couple things on our process flow. And as a hiring party, we also made the mistake. So not only did I have to pay the notary their full fee, because she did go out and do the job, there was a communication barrier. So me personally, as owner of the company, I owned it. And so next thing, the loan officer sent an email to the escrow officer and said, hey, these things happen. Jake did not have to do that, but hey, we'll definitely send some more loans to make up for that. Of course, that wasn't the intent, but it just shows that we're being genuine. Hey, this did happen. We'll learn from it. We'll move on. We'll move forward. Please give us another opportunity. Bam. So I'm eating my own words here and just saying that this does work. So that's what hiring parties want to see. All right. Let's talk about errors and omissions. It's too cheap not to buy. $25,000 is the industry adopted minimum for signing agents. So when you start getting your credentials and you start uploading them, usually you're going to see that $25,000 requirement. $100,000 seems to be the standard in the industry as the cap that you can get for an individual policy. You can buy these in 1-year terms or multiple years. If any of you are not currently commissioned, will be seeking that soon. Usually there's kind of a marriage in the application process where you can kind of wing that, or not wing it, but have it attached to your commission. In other words, they run concurrently. I don't know if we have it on the next slide, but I'm going to talk about it if I'm out of order here. But there's a big, newest, how do you say that? I call it the FOMO crowd, the fear of missing out crowd. That $1 million E&O is exactly what you need. Talking with several insurance professionals and as a hiring party, that's not necessarily going to land you any more business. It's not going to look better on you, other than, hey, this notary made a mistake. They got more money for us to go after. That's how I look at it as a hiring party. But that just seems to be the buzz right now. I would tell you, if you wanted to spend a little bit more money, $100,000 is perfect. It does look good. And if any of you work through a hiring party or directly with the Fidelity National Financial family of companies, just to be approved, you have to have $100,000. So here in Texas, I think it's like $52 a year. Other states, I don't think it's more than $150. It's a very small investment. And obviously, just think, most of these homes you go to, if you make any errors, the land without any improvements is worth more than 25 or 100,000. So I'm also a firm believer you can never be overinsured. So I'm not going to discourage you. If you have a good premium and you read all the exemptions and exclusions, and it's worth you spend a little bit more, hey, if you want the $1 million, knock yourself out. Just don't follow that vibe and follow the leader, because most people are not going to look for it. All right. E&O insurance. So it's going to protect you for notary errors, and it's going to usually provide a lawyer to cover some of your expenses. Now, there is a newer signing agent policy that's specific to our trade, and that's going to protect for signing agent errors, such as if you had any delays in delivering the package to the overnight carrier, if you, not necessarily notarial wise, but signing agent wise, made a mistake and it cost a rate lock or a redraw fee. And let's just say if it's thousands and thousands of dollars, then you have that coverage in most circumstances. But the premiums usually are higher. But again, overall, they're not too bad. As a hiring party, I do not seek out the NSA insurance. Most hiring parties do not. And when I'm in your shoes, my hiring parties, signing service that I work under, I've never been asked to have that. But again, I'm not saying not get it, but just right now, as you're building your business and you're starting to add on, just kind of allocate your funds to what you need right now to get out the gate. And then you can add on if you want to.
We have
Yes,
a
ma'am.
question about the NNA.
Okay, so I have a question with the certification with the NNA. I found
Okay.
that the site is a little confusing. So I've taken what I think is the main test for the signing agents, and I passed it. I got a 90-something%. But then when I went to signing agent website, I noticed that I didn't take maybe the Notary Essentials course, but I had signed up and I took the Notary Quick Start course. And so when we're talking certification from the NNA, what certification are people looking for? Just the main one? Or are they looking for those smaller courses and tests too?
They just want to check the box beside that you've passed a test, the NNA's test.
Okay, so that's the main test, not necessarily the Notary Essentials test? Because it says, no, I didn't pass that one, but I took the Notary Quick Start test, and I didn't, it's never.
Got to remember, they just want to sell you more courses.
Okay. And then, can I ask a question about the E&O insurance too?
Yes.
So when I contacted Burkhalter about insurance, and I was putting the insurance on the company, the LLC that I had set up, the policy for the $1 million, I think, was only $30 more for the year than $100,000. So I just went ahead and signed up for it. But what they were saying was that it seemed like I didn't have to buy the $25,000 of insurance through NNA, because Burkhalter doesn't see the difference between notary versus signing agent when you have insurance on a company. Is that true, or is that not true?
I wouldn't have a clue on that. Yeah, Burkhalter is something that's new to my ears. I've been seeing it on the forums. So I don't know. Jake, do you have any input on that?
Sure. Once you start incorporating, you're in a whole different playing field, and we wouldn't be able to help you because everyone's situation is so unique. But what I can tell you is, even if you incorporate as a commission notary public, you are always personally liable. You can't shield around that. So asset protection, again, that's a whole different ball game to talk about, but you really need to talk to the insurance agent that issues that policy to make sure you have a clear understanding. I've always been eager to look at the policy of Burkhalter and the exceptions. It's very attractive right now. They get a lot of business from word of mouth for notary signing. So I'm just curious. For me personally, I use hiscox.com. They've been around a lot longer. But just keep in mind, they're going to ask you, what is your projected income? And once you start making a lot of money, that premium is going to change. So I would talk to an actual licensed agent with Burkhalter and kind of get all those questions answered directly from the horse's mouth. But ask them, say, hey, we're responsible on an individual level for notarial errors. Do you cover me that when the policy is styled as an LLC? So they would be better to answer that.
So essentially, if I just had both, and I have the means to have both, I just keep my E&O through NNA, and then I do my coverage through my LLC.
Well, Michelle, that we talked about earlier, she's the bond lady. One thing she brought up in a recent conversation was, once there's a claim against you or an alleged misconduct, whatever it may be, your bond is immediately enacted. And then it's up to you to contact your E&O provider, and then their attorneys will then do that. So that's why most states require a bond. So it kind of goes downhill from there. But those questions are better answered from your insurance agent, and at the bottom we'll make the disclaimer, we're not insurance professionals. Title insurance, yes, but this type of insurance, no. But like I said, sometimes the policies handshake with one another, but then it'll be exemption. One will say thank you for the premium, but since you have this one, we're not going to touch it. So it's something we can't answer, unfortunately.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It's just hard learning, trying to put everything together because you're learning off the internet. You're learning off of chat rooms, and you're what certification do I need with NNA? I can't even figure it out on the website. And like I said, I took the main one. What insurance do I need? What, and so you kind of piece it all together and hope that you're making the right choices. And I'm from the state of Idaho, and there's just not a lot of information out there. I mean, I have my handbook, but we're very casual out here. We're very laid back out here. And that's really interesting when you're trying to learn a business, when everyone's just really laid back. And so that's why I'm just trying to put it all together.
A good resource would be your local, where you have your vehicle or your home insured. A lot of times, if you work with an agent, they have similar coverage, and they're going to know your state's laws, and they'll say you don't need this or whatever. So I would definitely visit with that.
You have another question from Tracy Stevens. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. And then we have one from Tiasha, who had trouble getting into the class, Underwood. So, Jake, do you want to try to finish this section and then come back to these questions?
Let's do that.
All right.
So let's move right along on this next one. We were just talking about the bond. So the bonds can protect the public and not you. So again, generally speaking, most of you will get this when you apply to become a commissioned notary public. Excuse me. So again, whatever your state requires, but just know the bond does not protect you. Your E&O does. Recommendations as far as where to seek them, if you do not have that in place right now, is notary.net, notaryrotary.com, and then Michelle Riley. I would probably steer you towards Michelle Riley for right now. It's the bondlady.org, but she doesn't just do bonds. She actually does E&O. And the premiums are very competitive. A lot of people report they're actually cheaper. But again, she can probably give you a better bundled deal. So if you are paying a little bit more, you're getting more out of the policy. So you get what you pay for. So, but as an alternative, notary.net, that's where I got my 100,000 E&O, aside from my commercial E&O, because I wanted to get that 1 year increment. Because 2 years ago, when I started out, I was in your shoes. I literally left the whole industry. So having to get the equipment, start from ground zero, so cost was everything to me. So I got the 1 year. And of course, now things have progressed and I'm in a better place. I went ahead and did the 4 years and paid a little bit more. But Notary Rotary, you can get it there too. I'm sorry. I got mine from notaryrotary.com. Notary.net and Notary Rotary are sister affiliates. You can get them from either one. All right. And again, as a reminder, your independent agent may offer this coverage as well. Some action items to close out this section. You want to review the signing professional work group guidelines and code of conduct. And you definitely need to secure all your credentials first, because hiring parties are going to seek them and will not hire you. Or if you do get hired, it'll be a contingency before you get paid. So just get them first. I'm going to piggyback really quick about that question. The NNA exam, the one that's the open book, that you get a score right away, the big one, that's the one that hiring parties look for. But again, it's open book. Would any of you go to the dentist for someone that took an open book exam? Probably not. Would you drive a vehicle that has not been through the vetting process and safety? Would you work somewhere that OSHA is not enforced? Probably not. So again, you guys are in the right place. But for those people that think, oh, I could just do open book and boom, I'm a signing agent, possibly. But again, let that culture keep going. Let them beat their own drum, because guess what? When they get negative impacts and the phone's just magically not ringing, yours will. So anyways, all right, let's go ahead and close out this one and stop our video, please.
Okay, we've got